Yep, it is time for a Sega Saturn unboxing. What we have here is a Model 1 Saturn. And also what I have here is the Model 1 Saturn. Yeah, the guy sent it separately. However, there is more stuff in here. So, I'll put the beauty aside and show you what's inside here. There's more than just the Sega Saturn. Let's see. Open that. Yeah, it came with a lot of those sports games that plagued the Sega systems, as you may or may know. I'm going to put you over here for now. And try to do this one-handed. Probably should have gotten out the tripod. Too late now. I'm not going backwards. Come on. Come on. They're trying to coax a cat. Anyways. Here's the Model 1 box. All Saturns came with a Virtua Fighter as their packing game, which really wasn't the best packing game for them. It was incredibly buggy. 06 maybe? Who knows? Anyways, here's what it offered. Unprecedented power. The Saturn was one of the more powerful systems in the 90s. Photorealistic 3D graphics. Not really. Blazing double-speed CD-ROM. Okay. There's the gigantic Model 1 controller next to the Sega Saturn. This is the Model 1 Saturn, and there's the Model 1 Saturn itself. So anyways, let's take a look in here. Well, first off we got a bag of games. They're all sports games though, so these are probably going to go in the trash more or less. I don't think anyone is going to give me anything for them. Let's see. Business reply, Sega Saturn registration, paperwork. Is that Virtua Fighter in there? Or is that something else? I'm assuming it's something else. Get my hand in there. Ah, it's the Sega Saturn Choice Cuts. Compilation of sorts. I'll put you aside. And see, we got all the paperwork here. Everyone likes some instruction manuals. Nope, now let's delve into the box. And we have another Sega Saturn. Well, I told you it wasn't a Saturn. There are two Saturns. So, I will be doing a comparison video. Or, I'll compare these two Saturns. This one's the Model 1, and here's the more common Model 2 Sega Saturn. So, let's see, we got a power, always nice to have. I swear this is the most standard third-party controller ever. I've seen with practically all the Sega Saturn listings. Is that any good? I don't know. Anyways, here's the official controller. This is the Model 1, and dear God is this dirty. X-Zero, did you used to own this? Anyways. Let's see, and we have a RF adapter. Well, dang. I was hoping it was have AV cable. And almost looks like the Genesis, but it's not. I tried to plug in the Genesis AV cable and it didn't fit. So yeah, here is the Model 2 Saturn. Put it right here. We'll get the box out of the way. So, comparison. Well, obviously you could tell the Model 1 Saturn does look a whole lot nicer. Well, they both got the open in the middle, reset button on the right, and power button on the left. Now, the main difference between these are basically the front panels. You see here, it's a nice clear plastic or translucent, and we got the power and the access lights that shine through here. However, on the Sega Saturn Model 2, it's just solid plastic like the rest of the console, and we only have the power LED. There's no access light, so can't really tell if it spins. However, a nice touch the Model 2 has is if you look at the top here, we actually have a little window, and you can see the disc spinning. On the Model 1 Saturn, this is actually same as this, but you can't see through it. It's blocked. There's a little piece of plastic under there that blocks it. Also, not only that, it's not exactly the most see-through thing. Back here, we have the cartridge slot. The way it's designed, you would think the flap would open like this, but it actually opens like this, so that could trick you. Not really see the practications of that, but here we could put a memory card or a RAM card. Some games required more RAM, so it's just like the N64 in a way. Same for the Model 2 here. And then we also have the 2 controller ports in the front right here. If we take a little walk to the back here, we can see a little door. And these are actually quite hard to get open. Ah, that hurt. Inside this little compartment, we could put in a little watch battery. The Saturn has internal memory, which means you could save your games directly to the console. However, it didn't have much memory. About 500 blocks, I believe. And one of the Saturn games takes like 497, so you best get a memory card. But if you have a game that has small save files, you could save them directly to the Saturn until you get your memory card, which is a nice feature. And also we can't see because it's dark in there, but there is a connector at the end. This came out in Japan, but I'm not sure about here. But you get these little cards called a VCD card and pop it in. And then what that will allow you to do is allow the Saturn to play back VCDs, which is basically the early predecessor to DVDs. Which means back in the day, you could actually watch movies on these things. PS1 can do that. And also with some games with video in them, it enhanced the picture. Video CDs use MPEG-1 compression, which today really sucks, but back in early 94, 95, it did the job okay. And video CDs never took off anywhere outside of Asia. And then you see, here's the back of the Model 1 Saturn. We have the exact same door here, with the exact same battery. And the problem with it being the exact same door means it's impossible to open. There we go, I didn't kill myself this time. Another battery and a port back there which you cannot see because it is dark. Ooh, that blue thing I forgot to mention is like a reset button. If you press that, it will erase the Saturn's memory. So don't do that if you want to lose all your save files. And then the backs are practically the same. We have the same power, AV, communication connector, and power supply. Same goes here. Power, AV, communication connector, and power supply. Now, I don't know if any cable is released for this. It's almost, I guess you could say, like the Virtual Boy's extension port. It was meant for, peripherals, maybe even a link cable between the two, but I do not think anything came out for this port. Unlike the Dreamcast, which came with the modem, even though you could take it out on the side, Saturn also came with something similar. It was called the Netlink. However, that plugged in to the top of the Saturn here in the cartridge slot, and then you could plug your phone line into it. So, unfortunately, even though Saturn somewhat has online play, it wasn't for this connector. Probably meant to be some sort of link cable, but never saw the light of day. Like I said, I do not know if anything ever came out for that. Similarly, there was a 3D controller, which almost looks like a Dreamcast controller for the Saturn. Of course, released later in the lifespan to accommodate more for 3D control. You could actually unplug the cable to the controller, and there was like a little expansion port there. No peripherals ever took advantage of it since it came out right when the Saturn was around to be discontinued. The theory is, though, because the Saturn was such a hot toy in Japan, they were planning the Dreamcast to have backwards compatibility, so you could use the Saturn 3D controller on your Sega Dreamcast, and I'm assuming that expansion port on the 3D controller would have been for a memory card. Unfortunately, the Saturn was a failure everywhere else besides Japan, due to Sega just having a tough time releasing good games. So, I'm assuming because of that, they changed their mind about the Saturn backwards compatibility because they thought, oh, no one else is gonna like that, it's gonna be a waste. However, in Japan, the Saturn was a huge deal. I remember reading when they were announcing the Dreamcast is starting to retire the Saturn. Sega had a few farewell events for the Saturn for the Japanese public. Like, they could write in, like, what was your favorite thing about the Saturn? And pretty much, I think the Japanese actually missed the Saturn when it was discontinued. Whereas here, this thing got the rap of basically Sega's version of the Virtual Boy, or 64DD. So yeah, that about does it. Anyways, just really quick, here's the Saturn plug. You take it, and you just put it straight into the port on the front. And this isn't lining up correctly because it's all tied up and on a bed. But yeah, you just put it up to the port and just push it in. I really do like these ports, and well, also the Dreamcast, because the controller ports on the Genesis, also used in like every console from the 80s except the NES, were a real pain in the butt to plug in and unplug. So it's good Sega made the new controller port. But yeah, that about does it for this video. Does this mean that there's going to be Saturn stuff coming in the future? Probably. But we'll just have to wait and see. As you saw, I came with an RF adapter. I know they made an S-video cable for this, so if I can get it, maybe there could be Saturn stuff in the future. So, until then, I'll see you guys later.